Divine Grace, Harikesa Swami Maharaj Shri Vishnu Bhari Ki.
A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. At the end, he reaches the supreme abode. Purport. This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapters, particularly as the chapters deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for a period from 5 to 20 years, he may become a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. When he is a householder, he also has to perform many sacrifices and strive for further enlightenment. Then after retiring from household life, upon accepting the order of vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances such as living in forests, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmachari, householder, vanaprastha, and finally sannyas, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahmajyoti or in the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by Vedic literatures. The beauty of Krishna consciousness is, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all rituals of the different orders of life. One should try to understand the 7th and 8th chapters of the Gita, not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with pure devotees. Chapters 6 through 12 are the essence of the Gita. If one is fortunate to understand the Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. One should hear the Gita from the devotee because at the beginning of the 4th chapter, it is stated that the Gita can only be perfectly understood by devotees. Hearing the Gita from devotees, not from mental speculators, is called faith. Through association of devotees, one is placed in devotional service. And by this service, Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, etc. become clear, and all misgivings are dispelled. And once doubts are removed, the study of the Gita becomes extremely pleasurable, and one develops a taste and feeling for Krishna consciousness. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna, and that is the beginning of the highest perfectional stage of life, which prepares the devotee's transferal to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee enters into eternal happiness. Vedeshu jagyeshu tavakshuchaiva daneshu yat punyapalam pradishtam acheti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi param stanam upaiti chajam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. At the end, he reaches the supreme abode. So this verse is very nice because it gives us a hope that although we may not be fully absorbed in getting all of the, auxiliary fruits that normally come in a devotee's life, or not particularly a devotee, but a spiritual aspirant's life, we will not be bereft of these fruits. In other words, there are many spiritual processes, spiritual paths. These, of course, are all part, when we speak of spiritual process, we talk in terms of the Veda. And they are all part of the main path that is going back to Godhead. But along the way, there are so many upa topics, upakhandhas, upa subjects, which are not exactly in the mainstream, bringing one back home back to Godhead, but are auxiliary, which help one to go back to Godhead, or help one to be engaged in devotional service. For instance, in the normal Vedic literature, when one wants to perform his devotional service, he has to do it in some kind of organized fashion with others, and it has to be peacefully performed. So this requires a social system, and Varnashram Dharma is the perfect way in which all persons' qualities can be engaged, so that peacefully everyone works together to satisfy Krishna. That's one example. And Varnashram is described in these upa portion of the Vedas, as well as directly. Directly it is also described. You should leave the door open because this closing and shutting the door is ridiculous. It is also described directly because it is, as it is described by Vishnu himself, it is the most important aspect for social organization. Krishna also says, Chaturvarna Maya Shristam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. This is a creation of myself, these four orders of life. So, in order to perform our duties within these orders, there are all kinds of auxiliary shastras. Shastras are there explaining how one should learn how to do all kinds of feats, for instance. Just like when Arjuna was shooting the arrow into the ground, and Grandfather Bhishma, he was looking for water at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. Then Bhishma Dev was laying on the ground on a bed of arrows because there were so many arrows stuck through him. When he laid down, he couldn't hit the ground. He was up on the arrows, supported. So Bhishma Dev asked for some drinking water, and Arjuna took one arrow and shot it in the ground, and out came a spring of the Ganges. Now, that's not because just 2 inches under the ground there happened to have been a spring of the Ganges. That does not work. If 2 inches under the ground there is a spring of the Ganges, it will anyway be mushy there. But there was nothing there previously. It was just dry dirt. If you go to Kurukshetra, you'll see that the whole place is dry dirt. There's nothing but dry dirt. But so Arjuna's arrow was especially powerful to bring the Ganges wherever it was. To bring the Ganges to that place, and it would sprout. So that is not just something that he did by chance. There's a mantra. He put a certain kind of mantra, and that worked that way. This is part of these auxiliary knowledges. That's one of the more spectacular ones. There are also less spectacular ones, like how to put your bricks together to make a house, and which way to make your roads, what directions, the techniques for building wells that are uncontaminated, etc. All of these different techniques are there. These are all auxiliary techniques. And similarly, there are also techniques on how one should leave the body, how one should go back home, back to Godhead, or how one should go to the heavenly planets. And these were also being described here in the Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter. One has to leave in the night during the smoke. This means, I'll tell you what all those verses mean. They're very tricky, but all it really means is that one has to, when he dies, he should die during the twilight so that he doesn't have to wait around. When they burn the body, you must burn the body before the sun goes down. And when you burn the body before the sun goes down, then the soul goes into the nighttime. And then, not just the soul in the subtle body. And then from the nighttime, from the smoke up into the nighttime. And then from the nighttime into the space to the dark side of the moon, and one goes to the heavenly planet in that way. So, it is a procedure how exactly one shall die. The yogi shall exactly pinpoint his time of departure. He shall arrange everything very favorably for his own best departure and best result. Now this is very, very difficult to do. No one in this room is going to be able to arrange his death to happen at the twilight, to save himself time so he does not have to hang around waiting for the body to be burnt. No one here is going to arrange like that. No one here would have the faintest idea in the world how to determine the moment of his death. And furthermore, one wouldn't even be able to change that. Let us say you could determine the moment of death. It will be at 8 in the morning. There's nobody here who could change that till 8 at night or 7 at night. Nobody. But those who are great yogis, who have practiced the Vedic principles, they can determine their moment of death. Because they will simply keep the heart going until the time they wish it to stop. They will cease that practice. By the pranayama practice, you can make your heart beat if you want, or to stop it if you want, when one is very powerful in that practice. And then, he will just leave the body as he likes, at whatever point in time he likes. Of course, the yogis also suspend all breathing processes. They don't even require the beating of the heart. Such advanced yogis, they go out the top of their head to the spiritual abode at the time they like best. So none of these things are possible for us. And a devotee may be lamenting, well, look at this, all I'm doing all day long is chanting Hare Krishna, and distributing books on Sankirtan and preaching to people. I mean, how am I going to do all these fancy things at the time of death? How am I ever going to get all of these wonderful results of austerities that it's stated if you do? For instance, Chaturmasya. There's hundreds and hundreds of wonderful things that happen to you. It is stated, if you do this kind of Chaturmasya, that you become more opulent, that you become as opulent as Narayan, or everybody bows down and you become famous throughout the world, or you get mystic powers, or you get this, you get unlimited amounts of things. It can be very attractive. So devotee might think, well, what am I bothering preaching for all the time? What am I bothering selling books for? It's better I just do these different austerities, do these different penances, I'll get all these wonderful things. But here Krishna is saying, you don't have to bother doing that. First of all, nobody's very attracted to doing that. Nobody's attracted to real austerities. Not in this age of color. Everybody's attracted to cheating austerities. Austerities in name only, but which you can somehow find a way out of. Just like the famous example of drinking water underwater while taking a bath on a fast day. So that's one of those austerities. It's austerity to fast. And on fast days you should generally not drink water even. Nirjal fasting. It's recommended by Lord Chaitanya. So, nobody wants even nirjal fasting, especially those who are yogis, because yogis know that when you fast and you drink water, that's very good, because that helps to wash out all of the poisons out of the body. Therefore, because they're body conscious, they're thinking, well, let me fast, okay, but let me drink a lot of water. Because there's an injunction you can sneak out of that says that water breaks the fast and doesn't break the fast simultaneously. So when they take a bath, part of the bath is you go under the water. And when they're under the water, they drink a lot of water. So, these different cheating processes are quite possible. And everybody in the age of Kali is accepting cheating processes. So Krishna is saying, you don't have to bother accepting these artificial dry austerities, which anyway you're not going to do, really. You don't have to bother worrying about getting mystic power and potencies. If you simply perform the path of devotional service, you simply are a devotee who is undergoing all kinds of works for the satisfaction of Krishna, who is chanting the Lord's holy name, who is sincerely trying to develop devotional attitude and understanding. Such a devotee, he will not be bereft of all of the results that normally one would get if he wasted so much time in these different little paths. He gets them. How he gets them, that remains to be seen. A devotee, of course, it is stated, he gets all opulences as a gift from Krishna. Even more than he can imagine. But if those opulences are given to him in such a way that he will decrease his devotional service then that will be a great mistake. Krishna does not do that. Therefore, one may sometimes perform devotional service and think, what is this? I'm not getting all the opulences. Here Krishna says I don't have to worry, they come automatically. But here I am serving him, and everything's getting taken away. So this is a great disaster. So I better give up serving Krishna and go back to my austerities and penances, and then I'll be able to get all the things I want. Well, if these things are actually the things you want, then of course you will do that. But if one understands that the thing that is really to be wanted is pure love of Krishna, then he will not mind if he is opulent or poor, if he is famous or infamous, or if he is very healthy or sick. He will simply be thinking, let me utilize whatever situation I'm in for the service of the Supreme Personality of God. And that is actually what Krishna is saying. Don't bother yourself trying to get all of these fruitive results that everybody is so eager for. The results that come from study of the Vedas, or from mental speculation, to merge into the Absolute, or to go to the heavenly planets by austerity, or getting great mystic powers the same way. You don't have to be all that eager for those things. In fact, you shouldn't be at all eager for those things. One should simply be eager for the lotus feet of the Lord. Pure devotional service. And pure devotional service is very, very rarely achieved. Because when you achieve it, you get the lotus feet of the Lord very tightly guaranteed. Therefore, he does not give it so easily. It says, Mukti Didati Karichit Smana Bhakti Yoga. Mukti you can get easily. Mukti Krishna gives easily. But bhakti, real bhakti, pure loving bhakti, he does not give so easily. Why? Because then you capture the lotus feet of the Lord in your heart. Krishna becomes enslaved in your pure devotion. Krishna actually becomes captured. And that is very, very rare thing. It's like Mother Yashoda, how she has captured Krishna, tying him with a rope, going to beat him with a stick. It's very, very wonderful, highly elevated thing, so rare. It is not that just anybody can attain such a platform. So, mukti you can have. There may be so many followers of the process of liberation, and they may even get some of them liberation. There may be thousands of them that may get liberation. But the supreme perfection, that is very, very rare. Krishna says that. Bhagavad Gita also. Nushanam sasashu kaschit yatsati siddhaya yatana pisiduna kaschit vetima tatvata. And also that is stated in the Bhagavatam. Kaschit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana aghanduganti katsnena niharam iva bhaskara. That Kechit, this word is used in both places. Kechit means very rarely, someone, not everyone. Kechit means a very particular person. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya, one who is very much absorbed in the loving devotional service of the Lord. And what is the proof? Vasudeva Parayana. He has no other shelter than the lotus feet of Vasudeva. Vasudeva Parayana, Narayana Parayana. These are devotees who are completely absorbed in Narayana, completely absorbed in Vasudeva. They have no other shelter. They do not think when some accident is about to occur, oh, my friend will save me, the police will save me, my muscles will save me, my wife will save me. Somebody is thinking simply, Krishna, save me. Or if something, some loss is there, he is thinking, Krishna is making me unattached to these material things. Or if some infamy is there, he is thinking, Krishna is teaching me that I have to surrender to him more. In this way, Vasudeva Parayana means he's got no other thought in his head but Vasudeva, but Krishna. To such a person, then Krishna manifests just like the sun in the morning to drive away all of the fog. All of this, and you can see everything very clearly. So Similarly, when Krishna comes and we are very firmly attached to the lotus feet of Krishna, then all of the fogginess that is there due to the acceptance of material bodies, due to having so many troubles with these material senses which are causing us, forcing us in so many ways to reach out for enjoyment either on the gross level or on the subtle level, or these levels here. The level of enjoyment, reaching out for heavenly planets, reaching out for living powers, reaching out for fame, profit, distinction, reaching out for gross sex pleasures. All of these things, these things are accepted only by those who have not understood the real nectar is at the lotus feet of the Lord. So our business is to attain that nectar and take full shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And if we do that very nicely, then we can easily attain the platform going back home, back to Godhead in this very life. Are there any questions? Yeah.
So this is those who engage in devotional service have to be rested as well as some of the people fast. Whenever we go to the Dharma and finish the session, once he dies here, no matter what he does, he goes to the Dharma or Sahajya, Catholic, whatever, he goes back to God.
Maybe not in one lifetime, but he goes back to God.
In 1 or 2 lifetimes.
Yeah.
And then we go and we're sitting close to pushing up movement from our other, and then sometimes it makes you feel like,
it's unfair. Here the Muslim on the street is chopping the head of the goat, and here I am spreading Lord Chaitanya's mission. He goes back to Godhead and I may fall and down. Anything can happen. Well, it's not really that way. First of all, this Muslim that's chopping the head of the goat in the street, how he got to take birth in Vrindavan, that we must see. How much service he has done in the past. How many unlimited pious activities. How much even devotional service. Just to take birth in Vrindavan Dham. To take a birth where you will stay in Vrindavan Dham. You must have performed so much pious activity. So it's not that, now you're doing something, therefore immediately you should get the same result. He has already gotten the result. And you are working on getting the result. So you should never think that way. And besides that, you're never lost to Krishna. If you are out distributing books or performing service with the Lord, He never forgets that. So even if you happen to fall away or get dragged away by Maya, still that will not cause your demise in devotional service. Maybe temporarily, but you will come back again and you will make supreme advancement ultimately.
But how is it that someone who has performed so many pious activities ends up chopping up heads of chickens? How can we understand?
Because he takes birth as a Muslim, and Muslims chop heads of goats. That's their business. They're trained up that way from birth.
But at the same time, he must have performed so much pious activities to take birth in Vrindavan as well.
Yeah, but he must have also had some other problems there too. Not purely piety. There must have been a little bit of something else. So he can take birth like that, and then next lifetime he can also suffer a little as a hog or a dog, just for one quick and go back.
You were mentioning about the other processes that aid, like shooting the arrow to the ground and stuff like that. So we don't want to get into these things for just for show or whatnot, but eventually will we be getting into that, like just to help pushing on the movement?
Well, there is no instruction in the Srimad Bhagavatam how to shoot arrows in the ground and make Ganges work. So, where will you find such an instruction? Yes, so somebody has to search it out and do investigation, this and that. And maybe some will make some experiments too. But in general, this is nobody will find it very valuable. Even if I said, okay, here we have the process for shooting arrows in the ground and making water come out. Now I'm going to offer a course every evening. You can take this course and, maybe 2 or 3 people will come and then after a while they will also make it. Because it is not very valuable. These are all part of martial arts for the Kshatriya class. Those who are Kshatriyas, or who are being trained up in a normal society to be Kshatriyas, they may go through all of that trouble to learn these different things. But we will not do such a thing. None of us are going to be trained to do such things. We have to be trained or be trained, at least be Vaishnavas, so that we can preach to others and get them involved in devotional service. That does not mean in the future we will not have these things. That means in the future, of course, we will have as much as we can of the Vedic knowledge. At least I'll be working towards that.
That's explained nicely in the Srimad Bhagavatam in relation to Maharaja Shaka, when he was residing in one place, how his powers came and he took a notice.
Well, where's the question?
No, I was saying that they nicely illustrated there.
Okay. I was waiting for a question. We need some questions though, so we can give answers. Yes?
In Krishna books, there's many descriptions that in the end, one who reads faithfully this chapter will sure attain a lot of God, will attain all the, will be liberated from all the kinds of miseries. And
so are you reading faithfully? It didn't say anyone who reads this while in a taxi cab. Anyone who reads this half faithfully. Anyone who reads this with full faith. Full faith is nishta. Nishta comes after all the unwanted things of the heart are driven out. So, if you are noticing that these things are not occurring, that is because you have not come to the platform of nishta. So you must come to the platform of nishta by getting rid of all of the unwanted things. Yes? The question is...
Yes.
Okay.
How do you understand that in relationship to the last verse in that instruction? That actually by being the current one, attains perfection of life.
Yes, attains. Does not say when you attain. It says attains. So when you chant Hare Krishna, you also attain. But there it says, surely you will attain pure love of Radha and Krishna.
Do you mean it comes quicker by doing all these devotional?
Sure, of course. Otherwise, why do we do it? There's some fruit there, you know. And fruit is the love of Godhead faster, so we do all these things. Come on. Yes.
Why is it that the pure devotees, they use everything in the service of Krishna? And they also have the 8 cities, so why don't they use those cities in the service of Krishna and destroy demons?
Pure devotees don't have the 8 cities.
They don't have that automatically.
No, not automatically. Especially nowadays. Who can claim to have 8 cities? First of all, these 8 cities are only claimable by Krishna. The 8 great Maha cities, these things are actually manifestations of Krishna. Just like become heavier than the heaviest, or greater than the greatest. Just like Karnadakshay Vishnu is greater than the greatest, and everything is emanating from him. Therefore he must be heavier than the heaviest thing. Or smaller than the smallest. It's Krishna, how he comes into the atom and manifests as the super soul there. Karma. Or how he can destroy anything at his will. He can even destroy universes. All these 8 cities, these things are only capable of Krishna. Now, others may attain these things to a slight degree. Some infinitesimal degree. Krishna has them to the infinite degree. We may get them to the infinitesimal degree if we are extraordinarily powerful. So one may have, in an unmanifested way, or not exactly fully manifested way, some of these opulences. And one who's an extremely powerful devotee of the Lord, he may have these opulences to the greatest degree that one can possibly have them. But still he would not use them, because nowhere does it say in the Shastra that one should serve Krishna by creating planets, or one should serve Krishna by floating in the sky or walking on water. These things do not help preaching Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada once said, if I displayed these tricks, then everybody would follow me some cheap way. Just like they follow Sai Baba, who just reaches into his hair and pulls out some gold. Sometimes he goes to England. I know the big story about Sai Baba is one day an Englishman came and said, I don't believe anything about you, but says, I have a liquor store in England. You can go get me a bottle of wine or whatever, whiskey from my liquor store, and then bring it back here. So he walked out of the room and came back in again a couple of minutes later with the whiskey bottle. So there it is. And then he said, what is this? Immediately called up to London, asked, was there a guy with bushy hair and long clothes, red, whatever color he was wearing? Did he just go get a bottle of whiskey? He said, yeah, there was somebody in just like that. He just bought a bottle of whiskey and then he was amazed. He said, he must be God. Look at this, what he just did. Only God can do something like that. Of course, nobody questioned, what is the need of God to go to London to get a bottle of whiskey? If God wanted a bottle of whiskey, he could just make a bottle of whiskey. And anyway, God doesn't want anything to do with bottle of whiskey. He has no need for bottle of whiskey. He's intoxicated all the time with the highest nectar of bliss. Whiskey does not intoxicate Satchidananda bodies. So, the whole thing is absurd. So, to just manifest tricks like that, people will just, because they are so foolish, they'll just accept you as God. So therefore, devotees have nothing to do with such things. Even if such things are to manifest before them.
This Sankta movement is the first time of Lord Chaitanya. He's making tricks to engage everyone in this movement. And conceding that one can control the mind of others. And it's okay if one Sankta come and try to develop a city to make it free.
No, because then after you control their mind, and they buy a book, and they could walk away, then they'll think, wait a minute, he tricked me, he controlled my mind. Otherwise, they would throw the book away and go to the nearest police station, and there'll be a big havoc. That's the way Sai Baba does it too. He's got that city that makes you, as soon as you come within a certain area of him, you start thinking, Sai Baba, Sai Baba, Sai Baba. So he's got that city, that power. And as soon as you go away from him again, you think, wait a minute, what's going on here? So you get annoyed. You get really annoyed. That which you were forced to take or were tricked into taking, you really reject afterwards. Yes.
So the soul is situated within the region of the heart and its atomic size. Now, is the super soul, Lord Paramatma, situated within the heart of the atomic soul, or is he seated as so separate?
No. He's living entity is here. The super soul is directly next to him.
Next to him.
Yes, and he said this is the size from the finger to the thumb. He's about that big.
So I think one said Paramatma was situated within the heart of the soul.
No.
There's an individual definite separation.
No. In the heart of the living entity, that means the heart of the body. In this body there is another. In this body, that's what's stated in the Bhagavad Gita. In this body there is another, who is the oldest, who is the controller, this and that. This person is the super soul, sits next to the soul, situated next to the soul, side by side. Not in the soul is not in them. Super soul is not in the soul. Yes.
When it's said to purify the heart, does that mean purify itself?
Yes, when it says of purify the heart, it's Chaita Dharmana. Chaita is the exact word which is used. Chaita refers to consciousness. consciousness is situated in the heart. Now, why is consciousness situated in the heart? It's not situated in this red pumping thing, is it? What it is the soul is in the heart. The soul is the seat of consciousness. And around the soul, the false ego is there wrapped up, the intelligence is there, the mind, etc. So these things are the consciousness, the energy of the soul is emanating through these things. And the consciousness is the symptom of the soul that is absorbed in the false ego, the intelligence, and the mind, and thus into the senses. So when we speak of the heart, we're speaking of the consciousness which is situated in the heart. One has to purify this contamination around the heart. Yes?
So, how can we then, can it be explained that the distinction there between, you say that the consciousness is the symptom of the soul. So then what is the difference between the soul and consciousness?
The soul is consciousness. But the consciousness emanates from the soul.
But the soul is consciousness.
The soul is conscious.
Consistent consciousness.
Yes. Not just consciousness, but it is fully conscious. That means all consciousness is actually the soul. When I have consciousness here of this finger, that's the soul, consciousness. That's me. My consciousness is the soul. But consciousness is there. It's an emanation from the soul that now is taking the form of this body. If it was not me, then how am I aware of this? But there is a difference between that which you are conscious of and the consciousness itself. It's like I'm conscious of you. I'm conscious of your existence, or you just coughed, and so many things. So now I'm conscious of you. So that does not mean I am you. I am conscious of you. Similarly, I am conscious of this body. But I am not this body. Now what is the thing that is conscious? That is the soul. I am conscious of you means I am perceiving you. I am conscious of this body, I am perceiving the body. And that perception is called consciousness. It's different than the body itself. It's different yet not different from the soul. Because it's the emanation of the energy of the soul, yet it is not the soul itself. Soul is situated here.
By chanting Hare Krishna, is it the ego which is dissolved, or the whole subtle body which is?
The whole subtle body is dissolved.
Whose mind and intelligence.
Yes. It is stated, Drayati Ashyat Kosham Nigirnam Analoyata. Kosham, all of these coverings, subtle coverings, they're dissolved exactly the same way as food is dissolved after you've eaten it by the process of digestion, although you're not even aware how. When you eat, your food is digested. You don't know how it's going on. Similarly, when you do devotional service, then automatically the whole subtle body, everything is digested, dissolved.
And then there's the spirit soul acting through the gross material body.
Yes?
Describe that Dr. Tanya, that devotional service, non-Buddhi Varga, never appreciated the factors. From my own perception, it appears that you could somehow make something like a transcendental survey of devotees, like 2-year devotees, 5-year devotees, and 10-year devotees. It appears that on the average, the younger devotees seem to be, on the average, more, enthusiastic and excited than the devotees. Of course, many devotees make, very great examples. On the average, most seems to be very great languishing propensity. Why is this? Since devotional service is supposed to be like ever increasing.
Yeah, because you got to increase with it. It's like a razor's edge in one sense it is stated, in another sense it is very difficult to perfect. Because you get easily, in the beginning, you get the fruits of your actions, because it is so different from your karma life. Kami life is so miserable in so many ways. So when you come to Krishna consciousness, then you're finished with all of those nasty things, nasty food, nasty friends, nasty engagements. And then you take up Krishna consciousness. It's very light, very enlivening. You feel free. Everything is wonderful. But after a while, you forget about how miserable it used to be, and then you start to take it for granted. And when you start to take it for granted, you don't hear so well, you don't chant enthusiastically, because you've forgotten what it was that it saved you from. And more than that, you've not gotten you have not learned enough about what it's bringing you to. In other words, one has to learn very much while he's got the enthusiasm, so that he will know where he's headed. Process for heading there. That's very important. And then he'll be able to maintain his enthusiasm in ever spiraling and increasing way. Because he'll be feeling himself getting closer and closer to the goal. Now you may say that some don't do that. And you're right, some don't do that. But that is because they make a decision that sense gratification is more important than this advancement back to God. Or they want to speedily skip over this or that process in order to go back home, back to Godhead quicker or something like that. In this way, there are so many pitfalls in devotional service. Some pitfalls are that one may become very attached to big positions, name, fame, glory, and that's a pitfall. And he can't advance any further because of that. He's stuck just maintaining his positions. Another pitfall may be that he's thinking, I'm not going fast enough, let me somehow expand it quicker, so I can get back there quicker. And then he concocts different methodologies. Another pitfall may be, it's too far away anyway, I'll never attain it this lifetime. Let me enjoy quick while I'm still young and come back later on when I'm old. So, all these pitfalls are there. So one has to avoid each one of them by knowledge and determination.
Some people say that, well, we can never advance because we're devotee, so why not get married and have a son and make the son a pure devotee? So that's how I'm going to go back further. Some useless philosophy.
Well, if that worked, if they actually made a son who would become a pure devotee,
or their son's son would be inside.
But if that's too far. If they actually made a son who would would make a pure devotee, then they would have to be devotees themselves. You may immediately fire back at such a person, but that's very nice. Okay, let's say you want to get married, all right. You want to have a son, all right. You want to make him a pure devotee, all right. But you have to be a devotee yourself. Otherwise he'll never become a pure devotee unless you are. If you are just a karmi running around doing business, and your son will look at mom and pop, their whole business is making money and getting big TVs and getting big positions, and so I'll do the same. He'll never become a pure devotee. You can't tell the child, all right, look, we're out enjoying, having a good time, but you go to the temple. He's not going to listen to that. He's going to say, hey, look at that. That's where it's at. Okay, let's go. So that's a false logic, because unless you yourself do, he will never do. Although there's nothing wrong with you doing and him doing too. That's great.
Well, I was meaning for devotee.
Alright, but if a devotee wants to train up a pure devotee, he has to be a pure devotee. Same logic is there. If just like we see here in Gurukul, when there's some parents who are rascals, they come and they take away the kid, and the kid becomes a rascal too. Even if he's been here 4 or 5 years. Unless the parents giving such a good example, children won't remain. So that logic is true for everybody, be devotee or not. Yes.
What importance consciousness has in relationships. You say a devotee who's not able to come to India, he has good Krishna consciousness, but then another devotee, he comes and visits these holy places like Deji.
And he's completely in mind.
Well, no, not just a relative relative importance.
Yeah, I've been complaining about that the whole time I have been here. Yeah. Some devotees, they come here and they become complete idiots. They can no longer do anything anymore. It's like, I asked them the other day, feed me, I'm starving. 10 of them running around here and there bumping into each other. 6 hours later, I still haven't done anything. So, this means that coming to the holy place and doing exactly what it says. You come to the holy place and just see. You see the water over there. You see the tree over there. Oh, isn't that a nice tree? And here's a pile of dirt. Oh yes, very nice pile of dirt. Everything has just become material because of the lack of determination to maintain devotional service. Sometimes devotees come to these festivals and they think it's a big tourism, big vacation. Let's see this, see that. Just like tourists, they bring their cameras. Exactly like tourists. The Indians think it's a riot. So, when one comes to India as a tourist, then he becomes very quickly in the same consciousness as a tourist. Which means you fall completely into Maya and you can't get anything together. Then everything in India becomes a great endeavor. So the one who stayed back to perform devotional service purely just went on with it. He was probably in better shape than the one who spent 3 weeks here spacing out. That's a fact. But one should come here and not space out. That's even better. One should spend time, chant more, hear more, question more. That's the better thing, that's the best of all to do. But to come to India and just space out, that's like being in Maya the whole time. What is the difference? Go here, go there, wander around. When it's time to have class or time to have purkram, one is wandering off in the woods here and there, like some bird. This is not devotional service. This is just different forms of Maya presenting itself as pious activity in India. But it's still Maya. Did that answer the question? Isn't the Artik now? Is there a play right after the Artik? Maybe everybody should go to the Artik. Hare Krishna.